Hey, 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 welcome back to another episode of How She Owns It. I'm so excited for today's conversation. We have the very fabulous Sarah Knight. She is an owner, a founder, holder of the sky, and juggler of all plates. Now, I hope I've covered everything, but I feel like it would be far better if I hand over to you, Sarah, for you to just introduce yourself, tell us what you're all about, let us know what you're doing in the world.
Oh, hello. This is very exciting. Very exciting indeed. I love it. Yes, well, juggler of all the plates. Who isn't? What woman in business is not a juggler of all the plates? I am a disruptor for good. I like disrupting things, but always for good and for positive impact. So I'm in the business of igniting fires for women in passion, purpose, and potential. So when we're holding all the skies and we're holding the sky up and we're the glue that connects everything from teams to businesses to families to partners to who feeds the bloody dog. It's about how we crack on with intention and on purpose. And that's what I do. And I do it through a little bit of straight talking, a lot of championing and cheerleading, a little bit of sprinkling of kicking you up the arse, and backed in very practical, real behavioural science. So that's what I do, sort of, in a nutshell.
I love all of that. And I think when I read some of the information that you very kindly shared with me before we booked you in, I knew that we were very similar in terms of what we want to do in the world, who we want to help, how we want to help them. And I love that you sprinkle in the cheerleading, but with the badassery and kicking of arses as well, because I feel like that's what I do too. And it's always with love, but sometimes everybody needs to kick up the backside, don't they? And it can be the thing I think sometimes that puts people on the path that actually then speeds things up for them because they're like, oh shit, right, okay.
Yep, everyone needs that little dose of accountability sometimes, and I think it's that, we can bubble wrap and we can wrap around kindly, but really importantly, it's like, right, okay, so what are you actually going to do now? Everything I do is about action, it's about movement, it's about intention, it's about momentum, and we can only crack on if we're prepared to take action. There's only so long that we can procrastinate about it.
That's it. So what would you say then self-leadership means to you?
How we give ourselves permission to be totally and utterly ourselves and comfortable in our own skin. So, not shrinking to fit, not conforming and side eyeing Susan on what we think it should look like, and being really happy with how we're leading ourselves forward. And what we're doing with intention. So, self leadership for me is always about being comfortable with who you are and showing up and owning her.
I love that. It's so true. And I think that we can get used to certainly following others, I think, in business, in a career, in life, and that becomes a really comfortable place to be. And we forget actually that the most powerful thing that we can do is lead ourselves, I think. And when we go first, and we show the world how we want to be treated, how we're actually going to treat ourselves, the way we show up, my experience has been then that the world and other people then move to match us and we just like it's a completely different energy, isn't it? We're almost training people how to teach us and what we will and what we won't accept.
Oh gosh, yeah, so true. I mean, if you go around and you tell people who you are and what you stand for, then that they know the story you want to tell. Don't let somebody else tell your story for you. You have to dictate it. You have to actually say, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, and then other people will share that for you.
Yeah, I love that. So would you mind sharing a lesson or a story that's helped shape how you lead?
Gosh, that's a good one. Right, okay, so yes, all right. So I'll tell you the square peg story. So many moons ago, I've had my own business for 23 years, but I've moved through different contracting and working with teams and building teams in various different corporate environments. And in one particular organization, I was looking to get a seat at the top table because that's where I thought that you pulled up your big girl pants and you were actually be able to walk around in your clicky heels and your kick flare jeans and you were going to rule the world. And I was consistently pushing for that. I really wanted it. I had two young kids, single mum, and I had my eyes on the prize. My prize was that top table. And in this particular organization, I was nailing everything. I was nailing my KPIs, I was nailing my team, I was nailing all the things that I needed to nail. I went in to have a conversation with the owner. There's about 70 people in the organization. She went, "The thing is, Sarah," she said, "you're a little bit of a square peg in a round hole." And it wasn't a compliment at all. And then what happened as a result is I then started shrinking to fit. Instead of I started shaving off some of the corners and thinking, oh, well, what I need to do is I need to fit in that round hole. And to fit in that round hole, I need to be more like them and I need to be
Yeah.
all like those people. And what I realized over a period of time, and I'm 52 now, and I probably took me into my 40s before I realized it, is that being a square peg is actually my superpower. And being individual and being that person who is prepared to disrupt, who is prepared to stand up for what she believes in, who is not going to conform to what all the round holes look like. No disrespect to the round holes. But actually, being a square peg became my superpower, and it took a lot of inner work. I call it the inner edge framework. And it was about me, again, going back to what we said right at the beginning, accepting myself who I am and honoring it and going, do you know what? I am actually a square peg. And you, where are we on the swearometer on the.
Swear away. I
All
love
right, okay.
it.
And you are not going to fucking tell me who I should be. I am going to tell you who I can be. And that's what changed.
I literally, I've got chills as hearing you say that because again, I feel like we're very similar in the way now that we view things. So the way I describe it is being flawsome. So it's owning our flaws but being awesome. But I think it is hard. It's not easy to own every single part of you, is it? Particularly when you're used to trying to show up in a way where you're trying to please this person and that group of people and maybe wearing a different mask because you think that's who they want to see or who you're expected to be. And that's fucking exhausting, isn't it, when you're doing that?
Yeah.
And I think same as you, it took me probably into my 40s, I'm nearly 47, to realize that I don't have to be everybody's cup of tea because I'm many people's glass of champagne. And I prefer champagne. And I think when you kind of have that mindset and it finally clicks in, you're then like, okay, if I don't like everybody else, it's all right if they don't like if everybody doesn't like me as well. It's so powerful though, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I love Flawsome. I strive to be perfectly imperfect.
Yeah.
So, and it's that thing of, we put so much pressure on ourselves. Our biggest barrier to who we want to be, how we want to show up, and what we want to do is ourselves.
Yeah.
No, it's you versus you. It's not anybody else, because once we actually do that work with ourselves, that's when we can absolutely show up being brilliantly flawsome and
Yeah.
go, this is me. And actually, not everyone's going to like you. Like you say, you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but who wants to be a cup of tea? Because.
Well, exactly. Who wouldn't want a glass of champagne if it was on offer? That's the way I keep telling myself. Doesn't matter what time it is, it's always cocktail hour somewhere.
Absolutely.
So how would you say then, during perhaps the messy times, the uncertainty, and you've kind of described one in the story that you've just described for us, how do you stay rooted in who you are and really embracing your square pegness, would you say?
I swear a lot.
Yeah.
I rock in a corner a lot. I am really open about the fact that it's not brilliant all the time. And I give myself permission to not have to do it all, because I think that's one of the biggest myths, is that we grew up learning and being told that to be a good girl, we could go out there and we do our careers. And if you've had children, if you can have children, if you've chosen to have children, you have children, and you can run a business and you can do all these things and you can do everything. And the wheels fall off at some stage. The wheels will fall off because shit happens. And I think that that's one of the things that is been massive. Now, the thing that was huge for me was 10 years ago, one of my very best friends went to sit on her cloud, and she started what I refer to as my fuck it years. and is also the reason I met and married the second husband. So her fault that I'm going through that training program again. But she knew she was dying. She had cancer. I should have done a trigger warning for this. But we had many, many conversations as we were sitting in bed together. I used to take my computer around. I used to sit on my bed next to her. Her husband would go out to work and I'd work next to her on the bed. And we had all these conversations about it. And one of the many things that she said to me was actually the story around when my husband now lived in Chamonix in France. And we'd met through friends, and he was living back in Chamonix in France, and I was in Salford. And he'd invited me over for a weekend, and he said, do you want to come over for the weekend? And I was sat on the bed with Ange, and I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. I'm like 42, going out there to see a man that I've not even kissed. And she was like, well, Sarah, she said, do you think if I could get on a plane now, I'd get on a plane? And she said, I'm completely oversharing. I should have said I'm a northern oversharer, right? Okay. So I'm really sorry to everybody that's listening to this because I am completely oversharing now. But
Go
she
for it.
said, she basically, I was just thinking maybe I should temper it a little bit. I'll give you the offline version in a minute. So she basically said to me, she said, do you think if I get on a plane now, I could get on a plane? And I would. And she said, if you do not go over there, she said, I'm going to haunt you for the rest of your life. She said, you need to go over there. She said, and what's the worst that can happen? You're going to have a really crap kiss. And then you're going to come back and you don't have to tell everybody about it because you don't live anywhere near them. Insert kiss for a different word.
Yeah,
Um, okay. So I went over there and we had a great time, and he is now the husband. She got to meet him before she died, which was brilliant. And but what that made me realize is that I was holding myself in the shackles, invisible shackles of what it should look like. And I was living in a world of shoulds. And actually, those shackles came off as Ange died. And I just went, fuck it. Now, I also made some really silly mistakes, hashtag credit cards and ski holidays, but I don't regret anything. But it opened up a world of opportunity, possibility, the art of possible, and just doing things for the right reasons and cracking on. That's where cracking on came from. We crack on.
Well, I'm so sorry to hear about your friend, first of all. She sounds like an absolute legend, and
It was.
her fuck it mentality and you taking that torch on and actually doing it, it sounds like you've like done some incredible things off the back of it, even though you've made mistakes. I feel like that's part of self-leadership as well, is leading ourselves through doing things, trying things. It's not waiting, is it? It's doing it, knowing that you've
Yeah,
either, a coach once said to me, you're either going to get what you want or you're going to get what you need. But either way, you're going to learn through it.
yeah.
And I think until we actually take that step forward and take fear with us, because that never goes away. In my experience, fear is always there. We
No, yeah. I said to someone the other day who was significantly younger than me, I said, we're always winging it. And they were like, no, 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 you've got it now. And I'm like, no, we're always winging it. But there's a book that just reminded me of what you said there, is that we're constantly practicing. And the more we practice and the more we see it as practicing and the more we see it as tiny experiments, we can crack on and move forward. And there's a brilliant book by a lady called Anne Law Lecumph, and I'm sorry, I pronounced that very badly because my French is shite. And it's called Tiny Experiments, and it's all about how we view what we're doing as tiny experiments. And when you go into that mindset,
yeah.
that helps with everything, because it helps with things like fear, because you go, this is just an experiment to see what happens. I don't need to repeat it.
Yeah, and I think one thing I've learned as well, very similar to that, and maybe an extension of that, is looking at failure as just data and not making it mean anything about us. If we fuck it up, it's not then shaming ourselves, like, oh, for God's sake, you shit at that, don't do it again, because then we're just like, okay, it's just data. What will we learn? Like, let's try it again, but go in that route instead of that one, because that one wasn't quite the right route. So I love that. Absolutely love it. So, what would you say you would like other women to know the most about owning it in terms of who they are, what they came here to do?
Do the work on yourself, invest in yourself, choose you, and I think it becomes what I wrote somewhere down before. You get to the stage where I think a lot of women do, especially perimenopause and menopausal women, where you think you're either going to have a breakdown or a breakthrough, and we get to choose the breakthrough. Now, regardless of whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, whatever the age, is that you get to choose you, and that's a conscious decision. And doing nothing is also a conscious decision. And I think that the biggest thing that we can do for ourselves as women is choose ourselves a lot earlier than we generally do, and invest in ourselves and go, actually, what do I really want? And that's not, I'm not talking about big goals. I'm not talking about climbing mountains. I'm not talking about earning fucking that I hate it when people talk about, oh, I'm going to earn 10 figures a month and anyway, all that sort of stuff. It's not that. I'm talking about what is gonna make your day brilliant today, or what is today? What does good enough look like? You know, for me, it's a brewing piece. For me, it's talking to you. I bloody love it. You know, for me, it's sitting down and having time with my kidults. You know, they're the things that absolutely make me and enable me to own my brilliance, but to choose me. And I think that if you could choose yourself once a day, then it would be that the compound effect of that over a period of time would be massive.
I love all of that, and I've had several conversations with loads of brilliant women recently, and I'm loving these calls because it's so wonderful to be able to share just having a conversation and your thoughts and your perspective and your take on things and the stories that you can share and your idea of owning it, because there's so many people sat on the other side of that that had never even considered the things that you've shared, or that have thought, wow, if Sarah can do it, then I'm going to give it a go. And I just, I think if we were to be able to be around for the kids that are now going through schools where they've got access to people like us that are helping them with this, that are reassuring them that it's safe to be them, that they can be them, you know, all the inner strategy, all the inner work, and they're getting this. What world is that going to be with like of powerful women in like 10, 20, 30, 40 years? And I think because they're doing it earlier, the people are more aware of it, aren't they, earlier? And it's just filtering down. And I just think, had I have had us, then
Yeah.
would I'd be on a different track. Yeah, I don't know what that would look like, but yeah, it would have been a lot earlier where I would have discovered all of these things.
Yeah, and that art of discovery and giving yourself permission to discover yourself, you know, it's not selfish, it's not self-indulgent, it's not self-care, it's actually self-trust, it's self-responsibility. And the more that we can do that, the more that we can work it out, you know, when we hear something we like, sit down and ask what that means for us. You know, tiny little things, you know, the smaller we can make it, then the better it is. And I agree with you. I think that if well, I don't even get me started on the education system. I think that's a conversation for a different day. Then I get proper ranty. It's probably not a good idea on a Wednesday evening, this or whatever day it is. I don't even know if it's Wednesday
It
today.
is Wednesday.
Is it Wednesday? It's
And we're
Wednesday.
recording, yeah. The reason that I shared that is because I've chatted with a lady who she does the two different ends of the spectrum, if you will. So women like me that are unlearning things and teens that are learning things. So I was thinking, coming at it from that angle, like what will those teenagers be like because of that support? And I just think it's a really powerful thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I love that the analogy between, you know, actually what we're doing, a lot of what we're doing is unlearning. You know,
Yeah.
we have to unlearn our automatic behaviors, our habits that are keeping us stuck, the way we approach things before we can inhale the learning to do something differently. But then the teaching that we can gift girls, women, you know, at a younger age is, you know, the power, the potential, the possibility, but also the fact that it's life is an experiment. Life is one big practice session, but you only get one. So, you know, it's like we can keep practicing it, but we don't get to come back Groundhog Day to keep doing it. So, you know, this is it. And let's, you know, let's do it on purpose. You know, like if we do it on purpose, with intention and consciously, it changes everything.
Oh, yeah, so good. So, for anybody that's watching this that has loved your attitude, your energy, your sweariness, all of the good stuff that you've shared, and they're like, I want to get some more of Sarah, where can they come and find you? Where are you hanging out?
So you can find me on LinkedIn. I think I'm Sarah Knight, FLPI, Fellow of the Learning and Performing Institute. So I'm FLPI because everybody in the world's called Sarah Knight because it's the most common name in the world. So you have to like actually search me out. Or you can find me on Instagram under FoundHER, which is the name of the collective that I run for people, for women finding and keeping their fire. And I also have a very fabulous podcast called It's Got Pockets, which is a mixture of interviews with brilliant women from Olympic winners and athletes right the way through to women that are turning their pain into purpose and how they've moved through grief right the way through to finding joy again. And that's called It's Got Pockets.
Fantastic. All of the links that Sarah has just spoken about are in the show notes, so you can go and find them. Thank you so much for coming and joining me, Sarah. I really love this conversation. I feel like I could chat to you. I've said that with everybody, but I do feel like I could chat to you for like hours and hours and hours, but I'm not sure people would sit and listen for hours and hours and hours, would they? Maybe in short bursts.
Yeah, absolutely. I've loved it. Thank you so much.
Very welcome. For anybody that is watching, go and find Sarah, go and click on her links. She's fabulous, and I will see you in the next episode.